Hello, welcome back to Sharks Happen. My name is Hal, I'm your host, going over shark attacks from the 1900s till present, mostly large sharks, and we'll get started right away. We're going to head over off the coast of Key West, Florida. The date is April 10th, 1965. James Morgan, MD, is out doing some spearfishing. He is 8 miles off the coast. He's in 30 feet of water. He had just speared himself a snapper, and it's 15 to 20 feet below him, and he's reeling that up to him when he spots a great white coming at him. He says it was coming up at him from a little bit from behind him and to the right of him. So he had turned around to try to stop the shark to try to hit the shark with the spear gun. And when he turned around, the shark grabbed his hand, so it bit on his hand and went on its way. It let go right away, but it took the spear gun. So he's got a bloody hand, and the shark gets about 50 feet. It must have turned back and went back the way that it went, because he said when it was about 50 feet away, he saw it release the spear gun and let that go. So he didn't even bother with the snapper that was on there. He just came up, grabbed him by the hand, took his spear gun a little ways and let it go along with the fish. He ended up getting in. He had tendons tore in his thumb, and he had severed nerve in his third finger, I believe it is. Some wounds to the back of his hand, a 10 to 12 foot great white. This is the only record I was able to find it in, was the shark attack file, which, I went ahead early on in this show, went by the shark attack file and said that there was no great white attacks ever in Florida waters. I don't know what they think this is. This is their own files. This is one of the reasons why I try to go with other sources more than them. I've ran into some problems with them. I got a couple of attacks we're going to go through today from 2007, and so somehow they don't know what kind of shark attack the people. So we'll get into that, and that's our attack. An attack and no attempt to predate. Okay, now we're going to head over to the Eastern Cape province of South Africa, to Nahoon Reef. The date is July 9th, 1994. Andrew Carter, 22 years old. He and a friend, they're out doing some surfing. It's about 1:30 in the afternoon. They're 150 meters from shore, but his buddy Bruce is further out. He's laying on his board and paddling. I believe he's paddling out. He's in 8 to 12 feet of water, like I said, 150 yards from shore. And all of a sudden he feels something clamp his leg. And he pretty much knows what it is. He looks down and he can see the shark has his leg in its mouth. He says now he's holding on to the board as hard as he can, because the shark's trying to take him and the board from the back underneath the water. And it finally loosens up his grip. And he was holding the board so much that he wanted to get himself off the board and swim away from it. Well, when he grabbed the board and the shark released and backed up a little bit, it came lunging forward, but he had held the board so tight it spun and jammed itself, the back end, into the shark's mouth. So he dives off the board and swims just a few strokes away from the board and turns around and watches the shark as it continues to try to get the board out of his mouth, which it eventually does, and sinks underwater. Now he's worried he can't make it to shore. He's bleeding pretty bad from his leg. So he swims back to his board, gets on it, and gets a wave in. Gets in, and people are all screaming. Now his buddy Bruce has to take a wave and go through this bloody area where the shark attacked him. And he gets back, and he's paddling his way back to the beach, and somebody's screaming at him, "Get out of the water. Andrew's been attacked," his friend. And he says, "I've been attacked." And then the guy looks down, and his leg, it looks like just above the knee, gone. So it took his leg, and he ended up not making it. So Bruce ended up dying from the same shark that attacked his buddy Andy. So Andrew was taken in, and he needed a 5-hour operation with over 2,000 stitches. They had to reattach every nerve in his leg, as he says that his leg was just hanging on to his torso. So his leg was hanging on to his body by about 2 inches of flesh, and that's it. So it sounds like a bit right through the bone, and probably the inside of the leg was hanging on there. Otherwise he would have been done with it for the leg. It took Bruce Corby's leg just below the knee, and he went into shock right after he got into shore. They said that when he told them that he had been attacked also, he was acting normally, but right after that he kind of went into shock, got a little hysterical. They tried to treat him on the beach. He went into He went into arrest and they tried to bring him back, but then he was in a coma from then. The next day he ended up passing away. A tough one, so we're going to put this one down as an attempted predation. And 2 attacks for great whites, even though it's the same one, I'm going to mark it down as 2 attacks. I'll take care of these ones together. And an attempt to predate, we'll put it down 1 attempt because it obviously wanted to take somebody with it. 12 foot to 14 foot great whites, so they're well past the time they're hunting for seals. And, you know, I'm sure they'll call it mistaken identity, even though it bit the one guy, and when he got away, it went and bit the other guy. I'm sure that they'll find some way to be able to do that, but I'll call it an attempt to predate, and that's our story of both Andrew Carter and his friend Bruce. Okay, now we're going to head over off the Keys again, this time off Plantation Key, Founders Park, the date August 19th, 2007. Chris Olstad, 52 years old. He is a marine biologist and he is doing his nightly swim. He goes from Founders Park, swims about a half mile out to a sailboat and swims back. 10:15 at night, he's about halfway back from the sailboat, so he's almost back to shore, about halfway, quarter mile from shore. And he feels a bump, then a bite. And he reaches down and he says he could tell he had a big flap of skin. A big flap just of skin hanging there on his chest, and he manages to get himself swimming into the shore. He makes a 100-yard walk from where he's at over to, they have a police substation, and he gets there, they take him in and get him help, and he ends up surviving this attack. Like I said, 10:15 at night, and he makes this swim, you know, pretty regularly. It's the second marine biologist I know of. William Colbert was the other marine biologist that ended up, that was a fatality off Key West. This marine biologist not having a good record down there. They don't know what type of shark, which is odd. In 2007, you got a shark bite and you don't know what kind of shark. Now the problem is this bite goes from just under his arm all the way down to his waist. Well, you don't even know if that's the full arc of the bite. It's got to be either a bull, a white, or a tiger, and there's a lot of these attacks, whether they're off the Carolina coasts or they're off of Florida, and they don't tell you what kind of shark. I know they know what kind of shark. They look at what the bite is. So, you know, I started wondering about this shark attack file stuff, and I looked into that a while back. Didn't like what I saw, but I gave it a benefit of a doubt, but I stopped using it as like the Bible of shark attacks. It's the University of Florida. Somehow they made this shark attack file and grabbed every shark attack, put them in their little kit, and now they control the shark attack information. So I think that they are actually helping some U.S. Vacation spots hide what's really going on with these sharks, especially in Florida. Christy Wapnarski, that's definitely a great white attack, but they claimed in their files that there's never been a great white attack off Florida waters. Well, I just read one of their own file in Florida, so they don't know what they're doing even with their own files. I've seen a lot of this where people just say stuff, they're talking. If you've learned about sharks back in the 80s and 90s, don't forget what you learned, and don't let people get away with changing that. One of the things I contacted somebody for, I got another channel I'm starting about bull sharks in freshwater, and I contacted a marine ecologist, sent an email out as soon as I saw an article where they were talking about a bull shark was found in the ice water in a Wisconsin lake. And instead of, when she's asked about it, saying, well, it's too cold for those sharks there, they wouldn't want to be there, she says, well, if there is a shark there, it would be the bull shark. So I sent her an email and I asked her what's her source that a shark would be in any waters that cold. The water in the Great Lakes, and that was ice water, but the water in the Great Lakes alone is only warm enough for a bull shark, maybe 1 month out of the year. So it's colder water than they're used to. They're not going to be there, yet nobody can tell the truth. I also sent out an email to another, I think this was a website, and they had it in there, and they decided that they were going to throw in that the bull shark often mates in river mouths. So out goes the email asking for the source on that, which I know I'm not going to hear back on either one because I know there is no source. That's total bogus. And this is going on with a lot of stuff in sharks right now. So there's a lot of people talking, wanting to hear themselves talk, making up excuses for attacks all the way to the other end where they're just saying whatever they want to say without any backing to it. So you got to watch what you hear. Like I say, if you learned about sharks like I did back in the 80s and 90s, trust your source because it's better than anything going on right now. There's a lot of change in shark history, and it's best to remember what you learned early on the sharks because it's totally changing now. But we'll move on. Okay, now we're going to head over off the coast of the Florida Keys again to Isla Morada. We're going to Bud and Mary's, which is a marina down there that caters to fishermen. They have hotels, rooms to stay in, and a little restaurant, and then they have the big marina. And the date is August 7th, 2007. Ashley Silverman, she's 19 years old. Her and her boyfriend are down in the Keys. They say this happened in the afternoon. She's sitting there and she wants to cool off. So she jumps into the marina, and she at first said that she thought she hit a propeller because right away she was attacked by the shark. There was blood in the water. She looked over and she said she could see pieces of her flesh floating on top of the water, and she could see to the bone, I guess on the inside of the arm. So her boyfriend jumped in. He had heard the screams, jumped into the water, got her out. Plastic surgeon said that she had some pretty bad injuries, so she needed plastic surgery to fill in those gaps where that skin was missing, obviously, and skin and flesh. And again, they say that it was probably a bite from a marine animal. And then they say it could have been done by a barracuda. The Keys in 2007 are still trying to pass off shark bites as barracudas. And whatever happened to knowing what happened with the shark bite by the bite? Why doesn't that work in these vacation towns in the U.S.? And why are the investigators for the International Shark Attack File not asking them what kind of shark it was and telling them the same thing? If you have a body, you should know what bit it, period. Especially if it's one of the big three. And on the last one, you don't even know how big of the arc of the mouth got this guy, but it got him all the way there. And this girl loses part of her arm, but they're making excuses and they're hiding these attacks with the help of the Shark Attack File, as far as I'm concerned. So that's our story, Ashley Silverman. Attack, no predation, and we will move on. Okay, now we're going to finish out our unprovoked attacks over off the coast of Tasmania, Australia. The date is June 5th, 1993. Therese Cartwright, Terry, 35 years old, mother of quadruplets of 6 years old, 4 of them, and then she had another child. Her and her husband and a couple other divers are heading out, and they go off the coast of Tasmania. They anchor their boat in a deep channel, about a 15-meter channel, I believe it is, they say, but where they're going to be diving is a little ways off the boat in 20 feet deep water, 25 feet, give or take. They all get in the water. Her husband is the skipper of the boat. He works for some fisheries, game and fisheries at a college, so he's the skipper of the boat. She's getting in the water. He told his, one of the guys that were in the water would take good care of my wife. Well, they head out from the boat. The others get about 20 meters away from the boat where they're going to start descending, and she's having troubles first getting away from the boat with her equipment, and then as she's out there, I guess she's having problems with balance of water in the ears, something like that. I'm not a diver, I don't know. So she starts diving down, gets about halfway down, so you're talking 10, 12 feet. Water's completely clear, calm, and a 14 to 15 foot great white comes flying up at her. They're amongst seals. I think they were actually studying the seals, but seals are swimming around. The shark comes up and grabs her in its mouth and bites down, lets her go. All the seals scatter. The other divers, they go to the bottom, hiding behind rocks, just to see the shark circle around, grab the body, and take off. All they ever found was one of her legs with the swim fin on it and part of the wetsuit, and that is it. Definitely a consume with a great white, and that's our story of Terry Cartwright, and we're going to get on to the end of the show. You don't hear that every day. Okay, we're going to finish out the show today with You Don't Hear That Every Day. We're going to go over to Cornwall, UK. I have here my set of jaws. I don't know if you can see my set of jaws, but these things are so sharp. I keep them hidden up here. I have cats, so I keep them up on top of my register so that they can't get at them and get themselves cut, because these are really sharp. So I wanted to bring that up because Darren Smith over there in the UK, he is a chef, and he was delivering a 7-foot porbeagle shark frozen in a cooler in the back of his truck. He was delivering that probably to the restaurant he works at. Well, he had put on the brakes heavy, and the shark spilled out of there. So as he was putting the shark back away, he accidentally tripped somehow, and he needed 17 stitches in his arm falling into a dead shark. So he said that he actually severed an artery too. It was a pretty bad cut. And he says the nurses were laughing at him when he was in there from that, but you don't hear about that every day. Land shark attacks happen. Some call land sharks these people that are at, these marinas and things that are in states that don't have water. I don't call it that. I call it these dead sharks that are on land. Some are in restaurants. This one was in a truck that end up actually hurting people when they, they're already dead, but they still end up wounding them. So you don't hear about it every day, but it does happen. So I thought I'd bring that one to you. That's our show for today. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. I hope you join me again in a couple days when we go over some more attacks. And until then, if you go in that water, you are much more afraid of those sharks than they are of you.